Good morning and welcome to Coffee Time with Kauffman, the comfortable place to talk about women's leadership. This morning, I am here with Ashling Guilfoyle as we discuss engineering, the common language we all speak. Hi, Ashling.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, fine.
Ashling is a civil engineer with over 11 years of experience. Her early career started as a site engineer on a construction site. After this, Ashling digressed into wet utility design, bringing with her the site knowledge to develop constructible designs. She joined Hyder Consulting, now Arcadis, based in Qatar in 2013, where she was involved in various utility infrastructure projects. From there, she joined WSP UAE in 2014, where she continued to grow within the wet utility design team. In her current role, she provides both technical and management advice associated with wet utility design in urban development and infrastructure. In addition to her technical role, she has a long list of leadership skills, particularly in the project management realm. She is an assertive individual who works well in a team and on her own. She was heavily involved with WSP initiatives such as the Early Career Leadership Program, Task Force, and Professional Registration Development Campaign. She also was the Middle East representative of Engineers Without Borders for WSP. After 5 years in her role in WSP, she embarked on a role with Atkins Middle East, where she was a part of a highly driven and ambitious team working on a mega project in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UAE. She moved on to project engineer for the design and build project for Atkins in collaboration with ASGC, where they were delivering a landmark Marsa Al Arab, a luxury hotel in the shadow of the iconic Burj Al Arab. Currently, she is now back with WSP as a project manager for the Property and Buildings Department. Ashling is the award winner for the Next Gen Woman of the Year 2021, Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, and the Big Five's Women in Construction Awards. But before we discuss engineering, the common language we all speak with Ashling, my name is Maria Kauffman, and today I've been drinking some butternut coffee. Ashling, what are you drinking?
An espresso. I'm not going to try and attempt what the capsule is called. The random pick.
Nice strong espresso to give you a little lift at the end of the day. It's the end of your day. It is morning for me.
And the end of the week.
And the end of the week. It is so lovely to have you on the show, certainly. Help us get to know you a little bit by helping us understand, when did some of your early genius start to at least show itself, maybe when you were really, really young? What are your first memories of maybe becoming an engineer, that is, or getting into a STEM field?
Yeah, I suppose my early memories actually, I remember before even I can talk, actually, when I say that to people, they're really, do you remember that? I'm like, you don't? But as in being specific for STEM and that, I had a little reputation in my house as always obsessed with taking the remote control apart for the TV and putting it back together. And I have vague memories of doing that. So that was probably before I even started primary school. They used to call me Mr. Mullins because that was a TV guy who used to fix the TVs back in the early 90s. And that's like, oh, Mr. Mullins at it again, and I'd be there ripping it apart and putting it back together. So it was that, and obviously I grew up on a farm, so there's a lot of things that happen out in the countryside where you need to, fix things and that. So I would be shadowing my brothers going around the farm and wonder what they're up to, if they're fixing pipes or, bits and pieces. And one of my brothers was very much mechanical minded. So he used to be pulling pieces of engines apart, putting them back together, fixing things just for fun, just as a teenager. So I would be like literally with him and always, you know, holding the wrench. Where's the screw you need? Where's the, you know, the washer and stuff. So I was always busying myself about wondering how things worked and that. So it is a surprise I ended up doing civil engineering as opposed to mechanical engineering. That was something I was thinking halfway through civil going, can I go back and do mechanical? But on this side, I'm kind of glad I did civil engineering. I still get a lot of smattering of mechanical exposure in my role anyways. And funny enough, I ended up in utilities, which is hydraulic design and, you know, pipes and other fluid mechanics as well. So it ended up finding me. But those are my early memories, you know, always problem solving and stuff. I was very artistic as well as a kid, you know, between, you know, playing music and very much both sides of my brain were very active, you know, art. You can probably see behind me here, some of my artwork, actually, the one there, the wrong side, it's mirrored. There, this cow, I did that when I was 15 for our version of the GCSEs, the Irish version, final project, you know, so it was more so by the time I was thinking of going into STEM, it was, is it architecture or civil engineering, you know? And luckily, a cousin of mine is an architect and she took me out of it.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. So very naturally curious, it sounds like, getting into the remote control, following some brothers around, getting, you know, all those things, very, very curious.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, always still am. Much to now my husband's annoyance. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Where are we going? What are you doing? Can I help you fix things?
And that's why I love to ask. It's sometimes those early signs of, you know, what were you like as a young child? They tend to allow us to open up a particular path. So as you were getting into more of the high school realm and things are starting to get a little bit more, let's say, serious on the math and science realm, what are your memories in those earlier years before you got into college? You know, maybe liking or disliking subjects, or what was, you know, those teenage years for you?
I suppose so in Ireland you go into, I think, your version of high school at the age of 12 and you're straight through that until you're 18 and you do your final exams to get into university. There's no like you branch off and there's no continuous assessment. There's two major exams which happen normally around the age of 15 and then the other one is like 17, 18. So we call it the junior cert and the leaving cert, the cert to leave to go into university. The Irish curriculum is pretty comprehensive and diverse compared to, say, our counterparts in the island over in Britain, where by the time they hit 15, they can actually specialise into the subjects they want to carry on into university. In Ireland, we still have to do a mandatory of 6 to 7 subjects, including 3 languages, to get into universities in Ireland. So, you know, both sides of your brain are being overworked and it can be difficult for people who are maybe just completely languages and the other ones who are completely just science-based. I kind of fell in between the cracks. So I was really good at history, really good at art, good at maths. Like I wouldn't say really good at maths. I was good at maths, really good at science. And then randomly, you know, I would be good at French and Irish. So I was kind of good at languages. So I kind of was starting to get going, I'm kind of good in I'm not a genius, you know, but I'm pretty more than average in a lot of these. And I didn't have a defined, this is definitely where you need to go, compared to some of my friends who are really good at languages and really good at, say, business. So that was definitely the route. They're going to be accountants, or they're going to be French teachers, or they're going to do a languages course, or others who are just complete whizzes at all the science subjects and maths. And that was a defined route for them. So I did spend a lot of my years in high school going, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I'm good at this, but I'm also not good enough as well to kind of branch up. There was no real push other than what I liked. So I started going down to, okay, so what did I actually really like? I liked art, creating. I liked maths, and you know, it was more so like the random maths, you know, and like for example, I don't know about in America, but in Ireland, in your maths exams, there's normally there's a maths question that's separated into A, B, and C, and there's points allocated. So it'll be 5 points for getting A right, B would be 10 points, and then the big one would be 15 points with part C. And average would be everyone would get the first part right, the second part maybe right or half right, and then always struggle on the third part. Whereas with me, I was the opposite. I'd struggle on the first one. I'd never get the 5 points for the A part. I'd normally half get the middle one, and I'd ace the higher points. And even my maths teacher's like, that is so weird. Like you're the opposite. You overthink everything. You're not getting the simple equations right, and you're getting the really complicated ones right. So I was kind of like felt sometimes I was an anomaly and kind of like the odd one out. I didn't conform to norma mean. So it was a bit of a struggle actually. There's a lot of flicking coins and thinking, what do I want to be? And
That's
asking
so,
people, what should I be?
well, sure, right?
Yeah.
You know, because you did I didn't like history per se, but math and sciences were definitely, you know, so I was kind of naturally pulled. But you
Yeah.
have this spectrum of being pretty good at all around. That's actually
Yeah.
pretty fabulous.
All rounder, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And look into, and I, you know, you hear a lot of stories. How did it help, or what did form you and get you on that path, getting through high school and closer to the college years? What was that like?
Yeah. So I suppose coming up to the big exam of your teenage years, the junior cert, when you're hitting 15, and that's when people are deciding what subjects. So you went from having, I think, 11, 12 subjects in junior cert, like state exams to cover, and you get to reduce them down to 7, which is still a lot compared to other countries, you know, to carry on through. So you get to kind of, you know, drop them down. So I suppose it came with, you could start going more into, you could pick 3 of the science subjects, you know, physics, chemistry and biology and that. And then you have to obviously start thinking of, if I go, so there's 2 types of universities in Ireland. There's a technical university, and there's the national universities, which are more like the original ones that were founded in Ireland. Like they're called the National Universities of Ireland. Before there were oh God, I'm going to get that wrong, but the Queen's University, yeah, that's what they were called. So Queen's Belfast, Queen's Galway, and then when we became a republic, they got rebranded into national universities. So there's 3 or 4 of them, and they offer the kind of, you know, the 4 pillars of society. You go and do teaching, you go do medicine, you go do engineering, and you go do, I don't know, whatever the 4th one is. I can't think, I've gone blank right now. So those kind of, or vocations, yeah, I say religious studies there. So for
Oh,
me, really, like, I was like, okay, okay. So I started looking at, I was very fortunate. The part of Ireland I grew up in is right beside the main university in Ireland, in the west of Ireland anyway. So Galway had the offering of, you know, the Polytechnic University, the technical universities, and also the standard original universities. So they offered all the course I was thinking of when I was thinking of, do I want to do medicine? That's also there. You know, everything was covered. So I actually didn't have to think about also, I need to move far away from my family to go to university. So it gave me more luxury of time to not make a decision. But I kind of had in my head civil engineering, and now I wouldn't have had major exposure to any real civil engineers growing up or that. My extended family, there's no one really that's in it. There's a few people in construction, right, but nothing as like a civil engineer. And that only my first cousin, she had gone on to do architecture, and she's about 3 years older than me. So she had gone off to another university in the other side of Ireland to start studying architecture. Now, on my other side, like literally it's you know, dentists, doctors, it's different phases. So a lot of people were like, why don't you go down the teaching route? Because again, the school I went to was an all-girls school, and they were kind of like the finishing, or not the starter school, the feeder school for the university that all the primary school teachers graduate out of. And it did play with me. I grew up right beside a primary school because my grandfather was a headmaster there. So there was that influence of, you know, maybe I should do teaching and that. And it's just engineering used to keep popping up. And, you know, it was like when I started speaking to my career guidance teacher about it, she's like, yeah, well, you know, you could do architecture, you're good at art and you're good at science. You know, civil engineering is a bit, you know, and she did say it's male dominated, it's a bit more concrete and out in sight. And I was like, but I do want to be outside. I'm curious. I want to know, at the time as well, when I was growing up, Ireland was undergoing a vast transformation. It went from being, you know, an island off Europe, to now it's part of the European Union, and we're having infrastructure being put in. We're having, you know, IDD parks, you know, like basically business parks being opened up. American companies were starting to move there and set up shop. We were the gateway to Europe for the North Americas, and you could see this development going up. And I was like, who is building these? How did they know where these go? Who's planned this? Like literally, our town was 5,000 people, now relates 12,000 people. All these, you know, multinationals coming in, and you know, different ways, new roads, new bridges, and it just fascinated me. So it was more so that, and also as well as that, like I would have definitely like esteem issues when it comes to like making like, because everyone was saying, anyone I said maybe civil engineering, it was kind of like, what? why? Do primary school teaching or do something else, or, you know, that kind of, you know. And I suppose as well, I opened it up myself open to being queried about it, because I was asking people, what should I do? Because I like French and I like history, and I also am good at math. So what does that make me? You know, what do I do? Is that just end up being a high school teacher and I cover these subjects and that's it, you know? So it was after, so you have to pick your subjects going into A levels. And I had decided then, okay, the university I want to go to, with keeping all my options open. If I want to do medicine, if I want to do pharmacy, then I also need to have at least 2 out of the 3 subjects for science on my, you know, grades to be passed on. Because they look for that. They look like if you have enough grades to get in, and also do the right content, as in, do you have physics? Do you have chemistry? Do you have biology? Or at least 2 of them. Then if you want to go to another university, they're like, they also need to know that you have English, Gaelic, which is our native language, and you have to have 1 other foreign language, preferably European. So you had to tick that off. So you couldn't drop one of the languages. So I was kind of left with, because there's only so many subjects you can choose, and the timetable in our high school, you know, there's X amount of people. Everyone seems to want to do biology, so there's a lot of biology classes, and not many people want to do physics. There's only 1. So when I picked my subjects, I picked to do biology because I didn't want to rule out a career medicine. And then I picked chemistry. I was like, I like chemistry. I'm good at chemistry. Physics, I was like, that's fine. I can live without that, you know. It's grand. I have 2 out of the 3 subjects. And the funny thing about it, then, like in classic, I don't know, it's this Irish style, but it happened to my niece recently as well, and she was a bit livid. So when you've picked this and you've started in September, in October, they decide to do a national aptitude test to see where your skills are based. And I'm like, okay, this kind of silly, because, you know, I've already picked my subjects and that's really it. So we did them, and in it would suggest, after the outcome, it would suggest what careers would be best suited for you, whether you're a people person or a computer person, and, you know, standard. So funny enough, I didn't expect to do exceedingly well in any subject. I was a kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So I was like, I probably get the same results back going, she's good at language, good at science, flick a coin.
Yeah, don't know where to place her.
Yeah, exactly. So randomly enough, my career guidance teacher bumped into me in the corridor. She's like, I think you need to come into my office and go through your results because they're quite impressive. And I was like, you serious? You're talking to me? And there is another Ashling in the year. And I was like, you know, maybe it was her, not me. So went into her office and she's like, what subjects did you pick for Leaving Cert? And I said, biology and chemistry. She's like, oh my God, you need to pick physics. And I was like, why? She goes, you got 98th percentile. And that means you're the 98th percentile in Ireland for your age at this moment in time of everyone else sitting that exam. So you're basically a genius in physics. I was like, oh God, are you serious? You know, and I was like, there's only 1 physics class available in the timetable that is already booked down. It has basically a waiting list, and only the people who this teacher's favorite from junior cert were let into that one. And I didn't know that teacher. So I was like, okay, great. And tried to get transferred into it. But then that meant I would have to sacrifice chemistry, and it just didn't fit. So I was kind of kicking myself over that. But however, the output was, it suggested clearly dentistry or civil engineering on the list. And I was like, that's it. That's all I need. That's kind of like my gut was telling me, this inner knowing going civil engineering. Because you just pop into my head, civil engineering, you know, and I was like, that's my sign. I'll go for that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you remember the first time you heard the term civil engineering or understood what that meant?
I think it might have been during history class when we were learning about the Romans and how they built the Roman roads all the way to the UK or back then Old Britain and or Britannia, and the viaducts and how they were the original engineers, and how civil engineering is one of the oldest professions in the world, you know, and that would have been the only snippet I would have got out of it, you know.
Yeah, because it sounds as like you kind of had a hook there and an attachment. So by the time you're going through these other things, civil engineering is kind of popping up.
Yeah. And I kind of, so that was, I actually do clearly remember reading on the list going, civil engineering, that's it. That is it. That's what I'm going to try. And all the dentistry, I played with the idea of dentistry because I had orthodontic treatment as a young teen. So, you know, I was kind of like, that's physics too. That's movement of teeth and bend and energy and that. So, yeah. But either way, I do like talking, communicating. So kind of said civil engineering would fit it what I wanted to aspire to. I don't like being cooped up in an office. I like having the option of being outdoorsy. I'm very curious about the built and how things work around me. So when I did have an intensive kind of career talk with my career guidance kind of, who Miss Jordan, she was absolutely amazing. Like she was so inspiring as well, and kind of like never for once told me, I don't think you see it. She just said it is very male dominated. Are you aware of that? And and I was like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
Whatever.
And then of course, yeah, because she's
Yeah.
like, you're going to an all girls school, and then you're going to go into basically an industry that's all male dominated. And I was like, yeah, I don't see the issue there,
Yep. And that was like me too.
Yeah.
A senior year in high school, that was the first time I even started hearing some of that. And that was my reaction as well. It was like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, it never was a thing I would have been aware of, So it ended up, she was like, okay, well, there's architecture, you're good at art, so maybe think about that. And I was like, yeah, let me talk to my cousin. And it was more so really what came down to, do I like how pretty the building looks, or I'm more interested in how it stands up? And it came down to, I'm interested in how it stands up, and I'm interested in the bridge design and, seismic activity, how you earthquake proof, or mitigate earthquake inflictions on buildings and stuff like that. So it was kind of that. Now it became like, are you going to do structural engineering or civil engineering? Now I kind of backed off and did civil engineering, because the two universities near to my hometown did offer civil engineering, and then you can major in structural in your final year, or you could go to one of the other universities and just do pure structural engineering. So I started doing my research, and with her help, she set up a meeting with the only female lecturer at the time in GMIT, which was the university I ended up opting to go for, and had a sit down with her, and she just inspired me so much with her. At this stage, she was in her, I'd say, late 40s. She'd semi-retired. She got into a lecturing position, had come back, but she'd lived all her life abroad. She was in Africa, she was in America, she was everywhere, building roads and bridges and stuff. And I was like, that is who I want to be. That's me. That's what I want.
Nice to have that exposure, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. So
now, was that in high school, or when was that?
That was in high school. Yeah, that was a year before I sat my final exams. So again, my career guidance teacher was very much helpful in making me reach out to finding the right people, because some don't. They're like, oh, just here's a prospectus, read through it, make your decision. Right. But she was very hands-on, and nice. And today my niece is currently going through the same high school, and she's like, yeah, she's still as hands-on as ever. Like, she's just one of those unique teachers you come across.
That's so important.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry.
Was that then? Did that set your trajectory?
That kind of set, and then obviously, the more I started speaking about doing civil engineering, and obviously, I don't know what the term is, but you start noticing more. So then, as the construction boom started to tick off in Ireland, I would hear neighbours being engineers or working in civil engineering and that, and then I'd be relegated with like, oh, that person was able to travel and they were over here. Some people were in the Middle East and they built this and the bigger project. So I was like, yeah, it's more me. I wanted to travel. I wanted to, and also as well as that, like. I'm very, like, I think it's analog in the way I think, or black and white, is like, I wanted to go to university and come out as something. I couldn't bear, and this is my own personal way, and this is my regimented black and white thinking, which I'm trying to be more flexible as I grow older. But it's more so, I couldn't imagine going and doing an arts degree and then afterwards going, oh, I have to do a master now. What am I? I just wanted to go in and come out with something, whether even primary school teaching, go in, it's nothing, come out after 4 years, I'm a primary school teacher. It had to be your process through the production line and you're out and ready to work.
Yep.
And that kind of, yeah.
Same thing here. It was like, I wanted to go to college, and basically at the end of college, I wanted to be clear what type of job I was applying for, because I just wanted to get a job.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
So then what was that like as you're getting through that college phase and you're starting to, clear, if the career path was clear, I'm assuming at that point,
Yeah, so it was clear. So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but also you need backup plans. So I'd put down environmental engineering, other parts, dentistry, medicine, everything. Like even when we have conversations with extended family here, my husband was like, you wanted to be everything. I was like, yeah, I did. I went from, I want to be a vet, I want to be a dentist. I put everything down in our list. So in Ireland, how it works, all the universities are public. They're not private. So you're in competition with everyone else doing their exams at that moment in time to get into that university. So it's a points demand system. So certain points where if they only have 30 places a year in the academic year, the points are crazily high for that. You have to get 600 points. That means you have to get straight 6 A's out of 6 subjects out of the 7 you're sitting, which can be quite intense and can be not reflective on the cognitive ability required for certain courses, shall we say, which is kind of unfair, but it is the way the Republic has set it up. And that so now it was like, I set my heart and want to be a civil engineer. I applied for, then it came down to, do I want to do it in a polytechnic university, or do I want to go to the university, which are both. So being logical risk mitigation type person that I am, I started looking at, okay, so how do I get a job straight off the bat? What university offers graduates in civil engineering the best job prospects? And it ended up that if I had gone to the NUIG, the National University of Galway, and did civil engineering there, that would have been more the traditional civil engineering, as in you learn about the the first principles. It's more theoretical. It's like going to civil engineering maybe in Cambridge. You learn all the highbrow stuff and that. But you need, then when you're qualified and potentially you get on site as a contractor, because that was where the most work was for civil engineers back then, was you were very, very little people got into design offices in Ireland. Because I was looking at Ireland and potential moving abroad slightly. So my whole thing was, I need to be in a course that offers me the best possibilities of getting hired. Now, whether that be with a contractor, being a surveyor, or in a design office being a designer. So when I compared GMIT, the Galway Mayo Institute of Technology, which now is rebranded as Atlantic Technical University, I think recently, they've changed it, or NUIG, I started doing the pro and con list. So it looked like, from my research, and even with my career guidance teacher, she was able to get information from the universities on where their graduates had gone after graduation. And a high number of the big contractor developer firms specifically went for GMIT graduates, and the main reason they did was they were basically considered surveyors afterwards. They knew how to use a total station, could set out levels, and that's practical. That's what a contractor needs, and also designers, you're also able to design. So I decided that, okay, if I'm going to go to civil engineering, I'm going to go into one that's practical, and I can get a job, even not as a civil engineer, but as a surveyor, or at least something. I can work on site. I'm not just pinning myself into design only office job, and that would think. And lucky enough, so that's what I picked. So I'd put down NUIG, and I put down GMIT, and I put down obviously environmental engineering in NUIG and other things. And there's a points difference slightly in that, but GMIT was harder to get into at the time when I set my exams. So I was like, okay, now I need to ace all my I need to get the points to get in. So
no pressure.
My heart set, no pressure. Yeah, setting my points in. You can't just rock up and walk in. So it ended up, then I was in study mode, and thank God I got exactly the points I needed to get in the first round.
Really?
So I was like, there you go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you did the work. I mean, and I say did the work, like you went with a strategy, and then you realize, in order to make this a real thing, like, I'm going to have to study, work it all, and I got to get the points.
Yeah. And I was really surprised too, because obviously I had actually health issues a few months before my exam. So in Ireland, we do a mock exam. So that's your mock leaving cert. So that kind of generates how much points you'll get. And then it prepares you for the final exams, So I actually, to be honest, I don't want to get into it, but I missed all my mock exams. I was in hospital for about 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, here we go. I'll have to repeat that year. So when I went in doing the final exams, I really was like, yeah, okay, this is just my mock, because I'll be repeating the whole leaving cert year again to probably get the points I need. And lo and behold, I actually got it. Like, I got an A1 in geography as well. So like that gave me the 100% points I needed. And I got very, very good results, which funny enough, my mother reckons is because I had thought, this, because if I knew it was a final exam, I probably would stress myself out so much and not got the points I wanted, because I'm not good at exams. I'm not good. It's a natural, some people are really good at regurgitating what they learn. And obviously I'm not.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. And then if I'm under pressure at all, I kind of blank out.
Yeah. So the stars all aligned. I'm curious about the family support. What was going on during those times? Were you kind of paving your own way? What was the family like dynamic there to support you?
Yeah. So I don't know. My dad and mom are distinctly two different personalities, but I'm definitely hybrid of both. So my dad, being a typical Irish dad, he was like, "Be a doctor. That's what you're going to do. That's what Dr. Guilfoyle. That's what I want my daughter to be." And that, and mom is a type, and I'm very much like her actually now, as I definitely see the similarities. I'm like, just do whatever you want, like, as long as you're happy. I'm not going to have any input into this whatsoever, because if I give my opinion and you don't like it, you follow, you're going to resent me. So that was her. She was like hands off, and she's hands off with everything normally. You have to beg her to get involved in your life sometimes. She's very much like, as long as you're happy, even if you're out. I don't know. Her favorite phrase, and I don't know where it comes from, like, if you're leading out blind dogs, and if that's what you're happy doing, then do it. I'm never going to tell you what to do in your career.
That's a nice balance. Awesome.
It is, yeah. So which is great, and obviously she kind of knew as well with me, like, there probably would be no telling me either. Once I had something fixed in my head, there's no debate, So obviously the doctor thing was, I think every dad wants their daughter to be a doctor. Right. And I did play with the idea, but there was a bit of an intervention where, my auntie was like, no, your EQ is too high. You won't like it. And I have family members who are in the medical field too, and it didn't sound like something. Yes, I would have liked it, but it's just, I cry too much.
It wouldn't have been the perfect fit.
No, it wouldn't have. And I didn't like biology that much, actually. So I rather the whole chemistry part. So if anything, I probably would have ended up going, okay, maybe pharmacy. And even at that, I just wanted outdoorsy life. You can't be an outdoorsy person unless you're working as Médecin Sans Boudier or something. Then you're out in the middle of the Wild West, kind of, servicing clinics and that. But yeah, no. So it wasn't for me.
Yeah. So what do you remember from university?
I remember having the major imposter syndrome.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah. More so, it was like, well, yes and no. So it was kind of like, I always had I suppose, the doubt in my head going, oh, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I need a backup plan. My backup plan actually was, I'll just go and do a beautician course and open up my own business and run a salon, because I liked painting and I liked doing nails. I liked doing my sister's makeup. I was really good at it. Again, it's just painting and that. And I liked it. I like creative, stuff. So in the back of my head, I was like, that's what I can do. I can do that. Or, and that it's so weird how your mind can play tricks on you. But, I used to be up there with the top in the class, and every time I used to be shocked. Like, I had zero expectation going into the exam, going, I'm probably going to fail this now. I probably shouldn't be here. And, it wouldn't help with certain remarks as well in my first week or two from my male, who are now one of my really good friends, actually. But they would like, oh, did you get lost? Are you supposed to be here? How did you get into engineering? That kind of, typical locker talk, banter.
Yeah, it's fun
and that,
sometimes.
And it is fun. And as well, I cannot pick up sarcasm anyway. So and people, if they're trying to make fun of me, I don't get it. I'm like, what? So I was proven a very bad target. So they just gave up.
A bad target. I love it.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't probably, like, I have no idea what you're saying. Are you being sarcastic or not? Are you being funny or that? And then you probably thought I was being super cold by going, are you being funny? Which they were, genuinely trying to be funny. But yeah. So imposter syndrome was that. Obviously, there was only like, the class, I think, of 80. I think it was really when I got in second year. It was a small class, actually, because we joined together for the common discipline. So mechanical come in and, be about 1,000 people in the auditorium for certain aspects. But I was quite lucky that by the time, that course in particular, that university like keeping smaller, I don't know the term, but small faculties, because every week for 2 hours minimum, you're doing surveying and setting out from day one. So they can't have 1,000 students doing setting out and surveying out in the football pitches, at any one time. So they do kind of control the amount of numbers and capacity that they have in that course, which compared to if I'd gone to INUIG, I would have been just a faceless number in the auditorium for all of the subjects. It's fine for a few, but we definitely had one-on-one experience and friendships with our lecturers, which helped a lot, So in my course, I think originally the starting figure, I think, was 90-ish people, and out of that was 6 girls.
Okay.
So,
Not
so
right.
then, and then I was made class prefect. I think that's what they used to call it, or head of class. That's in the class representative. You know, yeah,
Oh,
the second year
really?
class. Yeah, and it was actually a friend of mine, and we're still friends to this day. He nominated, just turned around, he's like, I'm going to nominate you for it, because we had to nominate. And then everyone's like, yeah, I heard, because I was the only one that actually, when I joined, I was going around saying hello to everyone. It's like, hi, how are you? Are you in St. And like, I thought like that's what you do. I need to get to know who everyone is, and I am a connector, and I'm very chatty, and that's so I was the only girl that they knew, because the rest had gone in and been quiet and that.
Oh.
And the funny thing about it, I was the only one for an all girls school. So I was like, they all went to mixed schools and they weren't even going around trying to network and chat and that.
This
So
is the opportunity, right?
yeah, exactly. This is my future colleagues. I need to make an impression. So I became class prefect. So for the first year, and then it was really in second year when I realized one of the girls dropped out and the other one was thinking about doing it, and then about 20 people had dropped out because they couldn't pass the exams. I was like, oh wow, I actually cleared a lot of them by quite a high level. So I kind of used to surprise myself all the time, and the imposter syndrome is definitely in my own head. A lot
Right.
of it, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
And
thanks for sharing, because that, I same thing here. So I remember experiencing
yeah,
it's kind of obvious, right? A lot of times I was the only woman in the class.
yeah,
It just kind of poses a natural dynamic and
slightly, yeah.
encourages imposter syndrome. But when the test results came out, I do remember those early classes. It was like I was the one with the highest grade, and then I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, you're like me. How that can't be right. And the thing is, I feel like it wasn't from people saying anything to me. It's probably I was always like that, even in secondary
Yeah.
school. If I topped the class, like when I got I never forget the day I did my geography exam for A levels or the Leaving Cert. On the way home in the bus, my two of my neighbours were beside me, and one of them was from the guy school, and the other girl was in my class in the pres where I went to, and we were going through the paper. What did you answer? Because that you're dissecting. What did you answer? What did you trying to understand? Were you completely wrong or you right? I remember going through the kind of, there was a few in the geography question where it showed you pictures of things, and it kind of give you multi question answers, where you could actually just circle what do you think it was, or that, and then the rest kind of came into obviously the nitty gritty of geography mechanics, and you're on about volcanic stuff, and sorry I sound very eloquent.
I was gonna say, I love
Volcanic
this.
stuff.
I love
I
it.
know. Yeah. So the thing was, in it, there was these 5 questions, and I had answered 3 of them different to the other ones. And in one, I remember one of the pictures was, they showed a picture from a satellite, and it was like, is this a forest fire or is it something else? Or, because we were on about the effects on certain climate changes on the world and that. And the 5 of them, out of these 5 questions, I had answered this, and this, and the other 2 had answered completely different. And I was like, okay. And then they're like, no. And I was like, but how did I get it so wrong? Like, I thought I was right because when I said, I was like, yeah, I know these ones, I know them. And so when I got my results, that I got an A1, and even I actually ended up for the transcription to see what exactly marked, because A1 is, I think, 95% and above. I got 97% in it. So I only got actually 3% knocked off for something, probably spelling mistakes. I was a bit illiterate sometimes, but my handwriting's atrocious as well. I have doctor's handwriting. That's the thing. And that's the main reason I didn't want to do anything that involved me writing a lot. And before then, computers weren't prevalently used. So I was like, maths, my numerology is fine. That's legible. So
Love it.
basically, with that, I remember ringing that girl going, you must have got the same marks because this. And she's like, no, I actually got way less than you. And it was those questions. Those questions were tiny, but I was like, that Ashling, I actually made a point of remember going, Ashling, you always think you're the one that doesn't know the thing, that everyone else knows more than you. You actually knew more than those 2 on the bus on the way home, and you convinced yourself you failed the geography exam, even though you aced it and they did average.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I have those moments of doubt, especially in university, I used to go and, and I had a reaction from a male, not a colleague, but in university of mine, when I did well in a thing from compared to him, and I considered him at the time a friend, because we're always had the same, surnames are clubbed together. And he's like, how did you do better than me? And I was like, oh, really? We've been friends for 3 years, and you're actually surprised I'm outshining you in certain things,
Right.
But that can happen obviously with a different gender as well, or the same gender. But it was always these things where I always do doubt myself a lot. And, and I had this conversation recently with my husband as well. And now I feel like sometimes it's what gives me the edge. it's like I always feel like I'm about to fail. So I work that bit harder, or, you know, go that step further to settle that imposter syndrome feeling I have. He thinks I'm crazy to be thinking like that at this stage, because I've obviously have now a track record, proven track record.
Right.
And that, but, you know, and it's true, you know, I probably need to manage that a small bit more and kind of settle in. But sometimes I feel like it's like if I finally go, oh, you know, I belong, then I won't be always top of my A game. But, you know, that's
but
another
maybe it
conversation.
comes along for the ride. So I was curious too. So now, you know, we're starting to hear about your career. Would love to have that perspective. But what was those early career development phases? What was it like getting that job out of college like for you?
It was tough. It was tough to get one, because second year into university, there was the national, we used to call the economic boom in Ireland during the mid-90s called the Celtic Tiger, right? The Celtic Tiger was roaring. There's money pouring into Ireland from all corners of Europe and America, building these, you know, well, now data centers, but back then it was building these manufacturing factories. You know, it was a hub for technology, a gateway to Europe, an English-speaking country that had lower tax breaks compared to the UK. So there was so much pouring in. Construction, there was cranes everywhere. You go to any of the small towns which turned into cities overnight, you know, cranes were littering the skyline. And that's why I was like, civil engineering is a good career. You know, I'm going to definitely get a good job. You know, any of the people who had been the year ahead of me had graduated without even having to do the fourth year, had done 3 years, gone straight into a contractor job, had bought houses, were able to get on the property ladder. You know, the salaries were amazing and everything. And then it came to our third year in university when we had to go on work placement. I'd secured work placement. And I remember going into one of our last lectures with that woman who I had said her name was Breda Joyce, or is Breda Joyce still with us. Breda Joyce, and she said, you know, have you heard the news? And everyone's like, what news? You know, it was a 9 o'clock lecture. Everyone's a bit sleepy. It was on a Thursday. It's like, it's broken all over the news that the Celtic Tiger, the bubble has burst. That was the you know, the one running through the TV, the headlines, you know, the bubble has burst. And it basically meant that all construction has ceased and money had drawn out and everyone had overexpended. The bankings were collapsing, the whole thing. So that was like during 2010. So I know there's a burst in 2008, but Ireland was a bit like slow to the party. we're a bit like isolated out on an island off an island, you know. So so yeah, it happened. And then next thing, like literally later on that day, I remember going to the canteen, everyone, what does this mean for us? We don't have a career. Like, what does it mean? Does that mean we have to emigrate now? Do we have to go to America like back in the day? Or do we have to go to England, find a job on the sites and that? And it was kind of like, we're so confused. We didn't know what it meant because we never heard of the word recession. Like my generation had missed the 80s recession. Ireland had gone through its own little brain drain and stuff over the time. And, you know, we were the first batch of free education to third level as well. And, you know, we were kind of spoiled, you know, pups of the Celtic Tiger, really, you know. And I just remember like the canteen, because we were in the engineering department area as well. So it's all the engineering fields in there, either structure, mechanical stuff. We're all kind of like looking blankly, like someone had died. We just didn't know what to make of it. It was just a weird energy. And later on that day, I got a phone call from the company who had offered me a graduate placement, as we to do, I think it was 6 weeks, and we to do our final thesis on it and so on. It had a big chunk of our credits as well for linked to our final year. They rang me saying, sorry, we can no longer take you on. I was like, take me on for free. Like I didn't expect payment. If that's the case, we have no
site. Just want to work.
I just need to finish this module in my course. And it was like, no, we can't, because we're letting people go. We're literally handing out notices now. We're closed shop. Wow. And I was like, and then next thing, all my other friends were getting the same phone calls, and everyone was like, what do we do? You know, we're literally within the last furlong of becoming qualified civil engineers, and we actually will have no job prospects now. Going from 2 years ago, we were probably going to come out and be one of the top earners in Ireland in our field, you know, for our age. So it was a big shock. And so finding a job then, so that's where Liverpool University came in. So my degree in GMIT was a 3-year degree, a technical degree, and it was a Bachelor of Civil Engineering Ordinary, what they call it. And you did have the option of doing a final year, Now you could do that within university in Galway, or you could go anywhere, you know. So a lot of people had decided, you know, let's go to Scotland. There's I think it's Heriot-Watt University, but if you go to Scotland, or if you go to any other countries, they want you to repeat their third year and do their final year. So you basically have to do 2 years. And again, this is where my logic brain comes in going, my time is precious.
Yes.
I don't want to do 5 years for a course I could have done originally for 4 years. So I either stay in Ireland and do the final year here, or because it looks like right now that I don't have job prospects in Ireland, I will need to travel. GMIT is a brilliant university in Ireland, but it's not very well known outside of Ireland. So I started thinking, and actually my dad helped me in this too. He's like, why don't you think about going to England then? Go to England. And now the difference is you go to Scotland, it's free, because they have an agreement with Ireland that all education is free across the board for both countries. England is still obviously a different country, even though it's part of the UK. Wales also is free. And I started going, okay, I don't want it. My dad was like, look, I'll pay for it. You pick a university, but make sure it's a good one, you know? So I was like, okay, so what do? I went to, back then we had the internet, which was great. You can Google the internet at this stage. So I got my Google on, and I started Googling what are the top 10 universities in the United Kingdom to graduate as a civil engineer from. Same thing I did as younger, but this time was no real Google. Back then, it was my career guide teacher helping me get on time. So a few came up, and obviously some of them were in Scotland. And again, I didn't want to do the 2 years. And John Moores University came up in Liverpool as one, as they call the UCAS form, which is their point system, but it was the one, I think, oh God, I should have Googled the statistics before I came on this call, but it was definitely in the top 10 of that year of the best place to do civil engineering in a built environment, that the graduates from there had the best chance of jobs and the content of it and that. And then you get a clear route to being a chartered engineer in the UK and that. So obviously in Ireland, we have our Engineers Institute as well, that you become chartered in Ireland, the IEI. And then there's the ICE, which is Institute of Chartered Engineers UK, which is more widely recognised in the world. So I was like, this actually might be an opportunity. So get out of your sad sobbing, no, the world's over, no job. Maybe I should have done primary school teaching. Oh, I should have done medicine. At least I have another 4 years in university to figure my stuff out.
This is important, right? You can change any problem into an opportunity, and there you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So so I looked at opportunity, and then it was obviously like how will I battle homesickness? Will I go to Liverpool? So then I found again through other people from a university had gone to John Moores. They'd bit the bullet and got student loans or paid to go to university. Now it was quite expensive. I remember each semester was 6,000 sterling at the time. And so that was 12,000 sterling, and that didn't include accommodation or fodder. You know what I mean? So it was a lot. And obviously I was moving away from home, and the baby of a massive family, kind of well kept as well, and comfortable. Don't really I like traveling, but mom used to bring me traveling as a kid, thank God. Every summer, twice a year we used to go on summer vacation. So now at this day, I'm like, you're the reason why I like to travel. You brought me from a very early age to France and Spain, and people speaking different languages and getting curious. So
nice.
So that's so anyways, long story short, I was like, fine, I'll go to John Moores University. I'll do a year and then I'm done. And after that I can do my master's if I need to kill more time if the industry hasn't picked up right then.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I did. Yeah. Got on a boat, went over to Liverpool, struggled with their very thick accent.
Yeah.
And did a year there and graduated. And then it was like, okay, do I do a master's? So I had been offered a master's in Salford University in Manchester for structural engineering. And I was like, yes, I really want to do that. But I'm so exhausted from, 2 years lead up into getting into university, studying and being sick on top of it. Then I had 4 years of studying away from being abroad as well. Did take its toll on my health as well, because I have a very bad chest as well. So Liverpool, the pollution levels are quite high. So I was always getting chesty. I was flying over very often to Ireland to get to my doctor to get medicated and that, So and stuff like that. So I kind of struggled. I was just spent, and I was like, I can't do another year over here. I can't study anymore. I'm done. In my head, I'd only allocated 2 years up to lead up before you think, and I needed a sabbatical basically. That's I was like, I'm defunct. And also there was no job. So I was like, maybe I should take a few months off and that.
Perfect.
And yeah, and also as well as that, again, my dad being a bit of a forward thinker, I mentioned this in our pre-call, but I did end up at the time during summer times, my male counterparts were labouring on site and getting experience out on site because it could do manual labour and could secure work that way. Whereas my dad was like, well, why don't you focus, if you want to be a designer, why don't you be the best equipped designer or graduate that they can have? So I swatted up on, if I can imagine, 2007 AutoCAD 3D, so before
Good
Revit was even a thing. So I did that. So I went to a local town where my dad paid for all the Autodesk training and that. And it was funny because in the training, I was the only one in university. The rest were like, say, CAD drafters 20 years in their career, learning this new software modeling and stuff, and it was actually great crack hanging out with them actually, because they just thought it was amazing that I was like so forward thinking and going, I wish I had what you had back then. I was gleaning advice out of them too as well. So like I'm always seeking out opportunities to learn and to learn from others who have gone through things, try and learn from where they've had obstacles or, get advice. I'm good. One thing I do, like, I do take on advice a lot. I search it out as well,
Important.
So that's what happened. So basically started sending my CV around and I got contacted by a local contractor, an Irish contractor from the west of Ireland, and they had someone with a need, they were like, look, we have jobs, but it's pretty rough and ready. It's up in Scotland in the middle of nowhere. We're tunneling through the mountains. We're doing waterworks up there and bringing the stormwater network down from the mountains and the waterworks to Ayrshire. And I was like, okay. So I got interviewed formally by their director. Now this guy is an ex-MIT graduate as well. He's kind of well known in the industry. So I was very intimidated having an interview with him because, MIT. I went to GMIT, which I used to joke with my English friends in university that it was the Irish campus of MIT. It was the Galway campus, which they used to believe. And I was like, no, I'm being sarcastic actually, but they believed it because I was such a genius. But
I love it.
Yeah. So anyways, had an interview with him on the Friday. He's like, when can you start? And I was like, Monday. And he's like, okay, we'll book the ferry. You have your own car? And I was like, yes, I have my own car. He goes, go home and pack and be on site Monday morning up in Ayrshire in Scotland. I was like, I don't know where that is, but yeah.
We'll figure it out. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
good
exactly.
for you.
So that was my first setup, but it was hard to get. I was very lucky because a lot of my my counterparts, graduates as well, they spent another year. Some of them just left the industry. They went into IT. They just completely left civil engineering.
Wow.
They went to Ernst Young, went to the kind of blue chip ones, or just emigrated completely to Australia or Canada at the time. So I was quite fortunate. I had my Canadian visa got actually back then to go to Canada, but my mom was like, no, Scotland's a bit closer. That's the only time I'll actually tell you what to do. Don't go that far.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. And she's right, so in Scotland, cut my teeth on site, and then the main contractor was like, hey, we have a good graduate program. Do you want to join us? And I was like, okay. Why not? Where do I go? And they're like, you need to go to London though. And I was like, okay, let's pack up again, go to London. So I was really it.
Nice.
And that's kind of been the story of my life, kind of, randomly getting phone calls from people and going, yes, I will move to that place I've never heard of before. So the same thing happened in London. So how I ended up in Qatar was I was working on because obviously I was working on water treatment works as well. So between tunneling and that, and tunneling was tough going because once the TVM goes in the ground, you have to be on site nearly 24 hours, 6 days a week. And it's tough, and it's like, I did it, and I loved every minute. I didn't feel tired, but there's a point where this is not sustainable at all. And I was, and after the 7 years I'd gone through as well, I was like, yeah, maybe this is not best fit for me. And if I get into it, and there was no graduate program at the time at that company. It was a very small outfit. Now that company's exploded in size and it's all over the world now, which I'm very proud of as someone who'd cut my teeth in that company. So I joined Galliford Try, main contractor in London, and then I used to really look up to the resident engineers because obviously on site you're starting to go, who calls the shots here, and I want to be that person. So the resident engineer. So I used to pester the resident engineers that I used to meet on site and go, how did you get, like, what makes you great at your job? Because you'd hear guys like chippies on site, like the carpenters and that going, this guy, he is good, and they'd be telling you, like, they'd be meriting, oh, he's not so good. Or that, and normally it was all he's. I never come across a female resident engineer while I was there.
Yeah.
So there was one guy in particular, and I was like, I'm going to pick his brain because everyone, even from the guy down digging the holes to more senior staff, the site agents are saying, this dude knows what he's doing.
Oh, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So his name was Earl Baristo, and lovely man. So I actually used to pester him, going, what was your career path? What did you do to get to here? And he was like, I was a design engineer, and then I went on site, and I went back to design again, and he seemed to have a very good smattering of design experience, like hands-on design experience. So then I said to him, I was like, well, do you think design experience help? If I want to be a good resident engineer, should I get some design experience? He goes, yes, you should. That's what makes a really good resident engineer, because you need to know from the beginning to the end. You need to know why the designer on the particular joint venture you're on is issuing out drawings that you have to then go out and set out the plinth different and the tanks different, and then send it back in as well. That could be smudged out if that engineer had any site experience, and vice versa, you know. So I was like, okay, that is very true. So then I would ask a few other people, what do you think makes a good resident engineer? And they're like, someone has good design experience and good site experience, because how can you build something you don't know how it designs? Now, that was the rule of thumb I was given. So I was like, right, I think I need to become a designer. That's what I need to do. And before I get too much into construction, and then it's hard to go back. So again, the recession was still on. There's no design projects being kicked off. Everything was shelved. It was more so there was some contracting work that would be completed off. So I started applying to loads of jobs everywhere in that. And then I still don't know to this day how to. I actually must ask the woman in particular who I'm going to name, Helen, who now works with me in WSP. So she contacted me and she's like, hey, I'm from Hyder. We're a design outfit. We're a British company. Yeah.
Contact.
Yeah, we're a British company. Now, I must send out so many CVs as well. And I would apply for jobs at senior high levels just to get my CV in there. And what used to be the feedback I get was, you're too junior for this role, but you have a really good CV for someone of your age. And I was like, interesting. And the one thing they used to point out was my design experience or my training in Autodesk. You know, so I was like, okay,
wow.
That was like, yeah, it was that. It was like the fact that they didn't have modelers. They had CAD draftsmen that were like 30, 40 years in that were resisting this whole change into 3D modeling. I was on the cusp of it. So that was mainly how I got a shoe in to getting a design job, you know, so which was brilliant. Brilliant. Helen interviewed me and she's like, look, we have, I never forget it. So we have a job out in Qatar. Have you ever heard of Doha? I was like, Doha. I was like, wait, my site agent, I think, went over there from the company I was in. I was like, I think he went to Doha. And I remember at the time going, where is that? And it's like, oh, it's near Dubai. I'm like, okay, yeah. And that was really it. Like, never really logged in my head. Only the fact that when they pronounce Qatar sound like guitar. And I was like, I'm so confused. How does this country pronounce his name? And that's, so she's, you know, so she said she was looking for someone that had some site experience, like not a pure graduate straight out of university, someone with actually graduate experience, could fit into the design team. And I was currently working on a wastewater treatment plant and freshwater treatment plant. So she's like, we're building the biggest freshwater tank reservoirs the world has ever seen on the peninsula of Qatar. Would you be interested in joining my team? And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Book my ticket. I'm going.
A problem turned into an opportunity. That's amazing. Exactly.
Yeah. So I landed out there and worked on the team for 18 months. And my first experience was landed in the middle of the night. Back then there was no direct flights to Qatar. It was too small at the time. So I went via Dubai with Emirates. So got to Dubai and I remember going, Jesus, this is such a long flight. This is the longest flight I probably have been ever on in a long time. The longest I've ever done was when we celebrate my mom's birthday. All of us went over to Turkey, which is the 4.5, 5 hour flight from Ireland. And I was like, oh, that was long. You know, so arrived in Dubai, transferred, got on in Qatar, and then got to the airport, got out of the airport, and I was just hit like by the heat and humidity in the middle of the night in a really alien country. And yeah, so that was my first impression going, ooh, this is warm. I feel like, you know, when you open up the oven, when you're cooking something and that instant puff, that's what I felt like. And I'm naturally wavy curly hair, so it just frizzed out. I was like, oh, we're not going to have straight hair for a while. I'm here. So
Super cool.
Joined her superstar team and worked on Mega Reservoir projects for 18 months.
Wow. So I'm hearing a couple of themes. Certainly, you know, some of these early just natural personality things and natural interest really open up kind of for a pretty a very interesting and I'm sure rewarding career. Along the way, there's a couple of very strategic, I'll say, opportunities, even whenever, you know, economically opportunities shut down. it opens the door for a couple of key decisions that you strategically make in the moment. You don't even know what kind of doors those are going to open up for you in the future, but they do. Getting that AutoCAD experience, being at least curious enough to go in and say, hey, who is the decision maker? Who's the leader, the kind of the big impact person? Finding that one person and then doing the legwork to understand, oh, what was his path to success? And maybe how can I incorporate some of those things into my repertoire or my CV that can open up things for me? So it's so brilliant. I love your story. So super cool. Help us understand though, what are your favorite parts? And everything just sounds so amazing, at least from my point. I love to travel, love to problem solve. What is your favorite part of what you do? If there's even one, how would you even answer that?
I think it's definitely problem solving. My husband jokes that sometimes I create problems to solve them. Just
Right.
And that so I do. I think it's a problem. It's just when they're okay. So the projects I work on, and the main reason I've stayed now in the Middle East for such a long time, because everything's picked up back in Europe. I'm getting approached regularly for work back home, and I've always kind of resisted because it's just, I feel like, it's like I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I'm like, there's so many cool bespoke projects to do. It's like the current project I'm on now that I've just joined WSP to work on, and it's just you're talking with the biggest architects in the world you're engaging with. You're with you're there talking to Mr. Foster of Foster and Partners. You're engaging with people at a very high cerebral or at top of the field. So, and that's what Middle East attracts, and obviously America had that too, because, recently I was in talks with another company, and, they have their hotshot architects, there as well, and they obviously have Calatrava on board. Like the project I worked with briefly, actually, while I was in Atkins, it was a Calatrava project. Like, where would you get that? It was so funny my first time, because I actually knew about Calatrava because I'd watched the Netflix series of that heiress that was pretending to be an heiress, and Calatrava. I was like, oh my god, that's mad. I know who that guy is. I've been on Teams calls with him.
Oh, cool.
And stuff like that. So what I like about my job, okay, obviously that's the ego speaking, like I think every civil engineer, every engineer, we like to create, there is that God aspect to all of us, even if we try to be humble, it is there. Yes. Like my family was over recently, and even Ali's family were over, and I was, pointing to the skyline Dubai, but I worked on that. So, there is that thing. But honestly, for me, it's the team. If you're in a good team, if it's the personality you come across, I love people. Like, I really do. I love problem solving. I love people who problem solve and who just roll up their sleeves and want to get it done, whether that's on site, figuring out how to dig the deepest hole we can dig, or it's, trying to figure out how to perch a 5-story building on the apex of the highest mountain in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
It's that.
So cool. Yeah. So, and I love to hear you talk in these ways. So help us tie us back to the title. Engineering is the common language that really everybody speaks, because we all have problems on some level. So it kind of sets you apart a little bit, but at the same time, it connects us with basically everyone. And it does take a team of people with a vast amount of skill sets and different perspectives to pull off some of the projects that you're doing. So touch on the title a little bit for us. How does it connect with everybody?
Yeah. So the reason I kind of would gravitate to a title like that, and I think it was in our pre-interview, I did say that, and I've said it recently in a STEM call with graduates back in the UK, is the first thing it was actually after I'd said yes to let's go to Qatar to work in this project. It was actually my brother was like, but do you not need to speak Arabic to go there? And I was like, oh, right, yeah. I don't think so. Well, I know how engineering works. So, maths is its own language. If you understand maths, and engineering is its own language. So in my head, I'm like, I'm speaking the prime language at the moment, and if we can't talk around that, then okay, this is that, communication as in like, Arabic and I was speaking. So actually working over here and then seeing how I have so many colleagues from everywhere, from the subcontinent, from Australia, from America, like, fair enough, we work on slightly different codes and standards, but we all speak the same language, which is engineering. You know, it's fundamental. It's definitely common across the board. I don't see what native language you speak interferes with what language. So you can drop me anywhere in the world, I'll be able to build something with a design team from that country. You know,
that is so powerful. I loved it. I mean, that's a complete opposite, right, of imposter syndrome. Love to hear you say, right?
Yeah, when I don't overthink things, I actually come out with very interesting aspects.
Yeah, I love it. And what opportunities? Your story certainly is amazing. And you've won awards. Can you touch a little bit about what led you up to getting those awards?
Yeah. So I kind of shoo that away. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm grand. Just ignore me. I'm just doing my job. You know, I'm not okay. Sometimes I kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm great, kind of thing. Within work, I'm very confident within my work team. But you know, I'm very shy naturally as a person. I'm quite a shy person, which kind of people at work, when they see me outside of work and I'm not as talkative and I'm very quiet as a dude, they're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm naturally an introverted person, or ambivert, as in I can be extroverted when I need to be and introverted. So the award thing came up was, okay, so when I was with WSP first, they were very good at promoting the females in our industry. And, you know, and it was on a regular basis where, you know, the marketing team like Ashling, let's put you forward for something. Can you do an article on this? Can you do an article on that? Like, let's put you forward for this, and awards and the STEM and you know, trying to give me that platform. But and even my line manager used to be at me, and you know, within the team, because I was performing so well, they wanted me to get the accolades externally, because obviously I had the company as well. But you know, it's more so their way of making sure you. And they were like this with everyone as well. But I used to always shoot away, like, no, not ready yet. No, I can't. I just want to focus on my work. And that. And I was very much like, I don't want to do it because the imposter syndrome, I suppose, or there's part of me going, I don't know, maybe my views on stuff are maybe a bit orthodox for the younger, compared to the younger generation now. I don't know, is our generation lack confidence or something in a way, or that? And I can see with my niece and nephews, they're so confident. I'm like, God, if I had a bit of that, you know, which is brilliant. I'm so proud of them. Like, as in, I'm like, I wish it was a bit more like that. But so for me, I was like, until I feel I can stand on the stage and accept awards, I won't put myself forward. I just don't want to feel fake. I don't want to peak too soon. I felt like maybe 6-7 years in, it's a bit too early, in my personal opinion, you know. And I was like, I just need to have substance behind it for me, not for anyone else, for me. And it was after when I moved to Atkins, and I worked on one of the toughest projects Atkins had on its books at the time, the martial art project. And I was on site and everything. And it was actually the contractors themselves, the guys on site going, how come you don't get these awards? You should be going for these awards, you know. And there was one lovely Arabic guy who is still keeping in touch with today. And he's like, and it's funny because he's Egyptian. He's like, Yanni, you should win these awards, because every year around this time of year, there's awards coming out, and then to see someone from my company win the award, and they're like, Yanni, why didn't you go for it? You should win these awards. This person, you know, I think you should go for it. It was actually them bolstering my confidence. The people I met on site as well saying, like, actually, you're pretty well-rounded. So again, being on site with them in a design and build was able for me to go, there's my site background, there's my design experience. I'm able to talk the same language that the contractor wants. And it gave me that kind of, do you know what? I'm not just hearing it from my internal team members now and my line manager and my head of department. I'm not hearing it from my partner. I'm actually hearing it from people who don't even know me and only know me based on this project on site, probably on the toughest project where it may have not been my best self, you know, not to crying in the bathroom from pressure and stuff like that. And I was like, do you know what? I think I will accept being put forward, to be shortlisted at least, you know. So my line manager was like, it is, yeah. So anyway, my line manager was like, okay, go for it, that's fine, and just fill up whatever you need to fill up, and that was it. And then so the thing was, honestly, I'm laughing because when I got shortlisted, I was dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded. I was like, oh my Lord, honestly,
what is this?
Couldn't believe it. I was like, Joe, honestly, I took away from, I was like, only probably 10 people entered. You know, I was like, that must be it, you know?
Right. You want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was actually, you know, and then I seen the girls who were shortlisted. And then, of course, I knew one of them, and she is really, I look up to her, you know, so I was like, yeah, look, she's going to win it. Or, you know, if she does, she deserves it. I'm kind of shocked to be here on this panel, you know, being shortlisted and I think even my submission was such a rush job. I put good content in there, but like, you know, it wouldn't have been, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a template to go, I don't want to kind of throw my old company's marketing team in it, but you know, they weren't very helpful. So I had to do it myself, and I had to do my own presentation, stuff like that, you know, whereas, you know, other people had a person to do it for them. So even when I won, I was like, that was my whole presentation. That was all me, like all me, and I won it. And won the day when it was announced. So I came late, of course. God.
No.
Yeah, I got in late to the arena and sat down. And the last seat, because obviously there's COVID restrictions, so we're all like spaces between the seats. You weren't together. Didn't really know anyone in there, and kind of rocked up. And the last seat was right in front beside the stage to the far left. So even if you see the group photos or the ones that are taken off stage, you can't even see me in the audience. I'm just so far over there. So and then I spotted someone I knew, the girl that shortlisted, Rhea, like who's a superstar, and I was like, oh, you know, I think you're definitely going to win it, kind of thing, you know. And you know, I was just women, happy to be there. Yeah, sure. I was just happy to be there, and so anyways, when I suppose really what was funny was the MC guy and the girl who had been emailing me saying, are you definitely attending? It's an in-person event, it's not online. They came over and like, how do you pronounce your name? Because we need to list out all the 10 people, you know, announce that you're shortlisted. And so I was having a chit chat with them. And the thing was, now in hindsight, I look back at it, I was like, I'm so shocked to be shortlisted. Like, honestly, I'm just so happy to be here. Just so happy. And free croissants and, you know, coffee, brilliant. You know, I get half day at work. It's great. And I get to dress up because I was on site at that time as well. So I was always in t-shirts and hard hat and you know, the steel cap boots. So I was like, I'm dressed up. And even at that, I wasn't as dressed up as I would want to be. But I was like, you know, this will do. And genuinely not expecting anything. And my hair was a mess. Like, actually, when I look back at the videos, like, I could have got a blow dry. Like, seriously. So anyways, when it came up to let's announce the winner, it was like, winner, Ashling. I remember like staring up, and your man looked down going, come up.
What happened?
Because I was right beside it. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, such a ridiculous response. But genuine, because I am that. I'm pretty goofy outside of work. And got up to stage and took it. And the woman that presented me the award, I was like, oh my God, I've never won anything. And she just burst out laughing. So if you look at back at the old little, the pictures, you know, second after second, you can see her actually genuinely burst out laughing, presenting me the award. Because like, I never won anything, you know. And the MC then, he was quite charming. He's like, and Ashling, you've also won another prize today. I was like, what? He goes, most shocked face of the day. And I was like, okay. They chill, because everyone else who won the award went up, yeah, thank you, you know, and everything. And here was me going, I think I wouldn't let anyone come, because my husband, fiance at the time, he wanted to come, and you know, other people from work wanted to come just to support. I was like, geez, I'm not going to win it, like, you know, just wait. And that, so
yeah,
I did.
cool.
Yeah. So and it was very nice. You know, the judging panel, and then I actually found out that 112 people had entered for that category. So we were shortlisted out of 10. And that sounded like, I suppose it was innocent, or maybe my negative voice in my head going, no, you're only little amount of people. But it covers Africa. Like, a girl from South Africa won the other awards, you know. So it does cover all of Africa, you know, South Asia, and it's a big catchment. So they do get a lot of applications in. So yeah, mad.
Super
I didn't want to enter it this year because like I've had enough. I'm still in shock.
Still in shock. I love it.
Shock. Yeah.
So a couple more things, and you are a newlywed. So congratulations, certainly. So as you move forward and progress in your career, where do you see opportunities going?
As in for women, for me personally, or
either way, because I mean, just hearing your story is so inspiring and impressive. It certainly opens up the door, I believe, to anyone that has, you know, some interest in problem solving and travel and being a part of these major mega projects. So certainly, you know, in the world in general, and definitely for women in construction.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously the market is moving in a good direction with the gender balance that's happening. So I've seen a radical shift in the last like 11, 12 years. Now, bear in mind, I was on site for 4 years of that. The design always had more female presence, but now I can see it actually in the design teams, the it's almost in the team I've currently joined is almost 50-50, 50% of my teammates are female. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. Yeah, and
Nice.
that's not by design either, because I did question that going, you don't want to be a tick the box. Like, am I a tick the box
Right.
hire? And they're like, no, it just
Yeah.
happened, just so happened,
We don't need that.
So
Yeah.
we don't need that. And obviously I noticed when I moved to Atkins as well, like Atkins is an architecture firm. There's more feminine presence in architecture than there is, say, in civil engineering. So there is that, like, it depends on what sector of the industry you're in. But what I've seen, and another reason for, say, what I've noticed a lot, and my friends have benefited from this more so, me not yet, maybe fingers crossed down the road, but they are being more sympathetic to, when you have children, you might need to work flexi time. The mother's the primary caregiver anyways, even if she's a full-time, office job. So companies, even regionally, are very much like there's flexi time, enhanced maternity benefits, return to work schemes are starting to pop up here in the region as well. This region would have been a bit slower to kind of uptake on that. That would have been it's probably more than common now back in Europe, but definitely not here. So yeah, there is a back to work scheme some companies run, and they're making it definitely more equal opportunities, inviting, on that. So
yeah, important.
It is important. And I think it's moving the right way. I think the time, like when I went on site, here in the Middle East at first, it was definitely, what's she doing here? Not in a bad way though, more so like, oh no, she might get hurt, or, it's too hot kind of thing, not in a condescending way. It was like, oh, there's nicer, go sit in the canteen and that. And you're like, no, I want to go at work. But I never took it as a negative. I was like, I understand they want to look after me and just be nice. Like my big brothers were like that, any older man in my life has always been, caring. Oh no, just be careful. And then I'm not a very, I was going to say a tall stature. I'm a very short, petite girl. So I do look quite delicate. So I understand the perception that. But now when I did go on site at Mercer Arab, they didn't bat an eye. They're so used to women in and out, and that, which is great. It's the way it should be. It's the way I always used to look at things. I forget sometimes that, like, oh yeah, I'm a woman kind of thing. First, I'm an engineer.
We're just doing a job.
First. Yeah.
And we're enjoying. We enjoy doing the job.
Yeah, exactly. And we're quite good at it. So it seems.
And we're quite good at it, right? I love it.
Yeah. So I think the industry is moving in the right direction. It's definitely more sympathetic. And for me, obviously going into a project management role, it would be because I like talking to people and that. So me going forward, I don't know. I haven't done my 5-year plan yet. So recently married, and now I obviously have another stakeholder involved in decisions going forward, which is fine. And we're in the same industry too, so it kind of makes it easier. So we come as a package deal.
Yep. Sometimes it's waiting for those, windows to open or the doors to shut, and life just tends to play out as it does.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm actually curious to wait and see, because actually when I look back, and obviously you contacted me and reflecting on my journey to date, it's only when you look backwards you can join the dots. So I kind of I don't overthink it anymore. I'm like, go with the flow.
You got a good thing going. Just keep it going.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah.
Do you have an inspirational quote to share with the audience?
I do, but let me get it on my phone.
Sure. Awesome.
And the only reason is because, so anyways, it's an Albert Einstein quote. And I feel like myself, he was a late bloomer, as we all know. And his quote was, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. So for me, I think that resonates and could resonate with the audience here today. Is like, sometimes you fall between the cracks like I did. I was kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. The education system in some countries, the way they do testing doesn't necessarily mean if you're not getting A's, doesn't mean that you're not a genius. You just haven't found your niche yet, or may not suit the way. So it's really just don't give up, keep going, keep trucking. I know that's so. I
love it.
That's my goofiness. Sorry.
Super powerful though, right? Because
it is. Because honestly, most of my teenage life I felt dumb, like I really did, because other reasons and not being, I did well in exams and that, but not as well as I probably I know my intellectual ability is. It's just I'm not good at sitting exams. I panic. And
awesome. Well, I
it.
tell you what, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, to hear your story. It's very inspiring and very, very powerful to share. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks for having me and reaching out.
Yeah. Coffee Time with Kauffman is the comfortable
Cheers.
place to discuss women's leadership, because I am on a mission to help the world discover the truth about what women are capable of. For more conversations about women's leadership, follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe on YouTube. Have a great week. Enjoy your adventures and journey responsibly. Thanks.
Okay, bye.